Hi there, my name's Jim. This is my shed, and you're welcome to it. Well, hello. How are we doing? I promised I'd see you in a couple of weeks, so here I am, being true to my word for once. First thing I need to do is give a shout out to my Aunt Sandra in Canada. Hello, Auntie. Hope you're well. Hope you enjoy the episode and you continue learning from my ramblings. But cheers. Charlotte, you'll be next time, okay? Interesting stuff this week. I was looking at spark plugs for this. When I pulled the engine apart, I discovered it had these stupid long reach spark plugs. I don't know. I think it's quite a rare thing in these. It just happened to the base engine I happened to get had these plugs in it, which was a bit of a pain in the arse. Initially, found it quite tricky to find different heat range plugs of this style. So I found a company called Brisk, apparently quite well known. I'd never heard of them before, but yeah, quite a big spark plug company, and they had quite a big range. So I went on their website, found this style of plug. It was their Grade E or their Style E or whatever they called it. But I wasn't sure about heat ranges. There was a bit on their website where they showed had a heat range map, so you could compare it to NGK or Denso or whatever. But anyway, I didn't know that. I didn't find that, so I didn't know what heat range I was looking for. So I contacted them and got no response. And then I phoned them up, and the woman said, "Oh, I apologise for that. Just send us another email, and I promise it will be answered." So I contacted them again, no response. Thought, right, I'll give them another go, because they seem to be my best bet to easily get hold of plugs. So I phoned them up again, and the guy spoke to me. And initially, he said to me, "No, those are the wrong plugs for the engine. No, they don't fit. Blah blah. No, that's wrong." And I had to say, "Look, I took the plugs out. I measured them." And he went through and he said, "Oh yeah, there is one. There is a variant that has those plugs in. Okay, so it's the E-style plugs, right? Great, good. So we'll get on with that." And then he shows me on the website where this heat range bit is. So, oh, okay, so heat range. So I want something like I'm thinking maybe a 7, an NGK equivalent, maybe a 7 to warm to map. Probably need an 8 or a 9 for running, probably something like that. Something I don't know till we get it in, but something in that range. And he just said, "No, you're just guessing." I was like, "Well, yeah, okay, but I have to start somewhere." No, you're just guessing. The laws of thermodynamics. And at this point, I'm afraid I lost my rag, and I just went, "Oh, fuck off," and hung up. Which then proceeded. The guy phoned me back 3 times, and then told me I was a fucking prick, a rude fucking prick. And then he said, "Now you can hang up." So I said, "Okay, goodbye." Now, I freely admit I shouldn't have lost my rag, but condescending is not, doesn't even come close. This guy was an absolute, he spoke to me like I was a moron. So, Brisk plugs, definite no-no. Not helped by the fact that I saw on Two-Stroke Stuffing a little while ago, he had a Brisk plug, and the central electrode had actually fallen off, so it was flapping around inside the plug. So he said he wouldn't go Brisk plugs. And having experienced their customer service, I will not be buying Brisk plugs either, and I would not recommend anyone else does. It's entirely up to you. I'm just saying, but from my perspective, my experience would not lead me to recommend them to anyone. So. That's that bit out of the way. No, I must say I was quite angry. This guy, honestly, it takes a lot to get me that angry. But anyway, I'm over it now, honestly. Anyway, all that said, oh no, so spark plugs. Anyway, so I thought, right, I'm going online. These things have got to exist. This style of plug is used in Evos, so there must be. I mean, as in Mitsubishi Evos, apparently Evo 9s, is it, or 10s, something. So must be plugs. So I found basically HKS make plugs. They're like 90 quid a set, so it's like, oh, great. I can get a set of standard Evo plugs for normal money, like 10 quid a plug or whatever. And then, but but they'll be the 7s, so they'll do for initial mapping, and they may be good enough for the engine. I don't know, but I would like a colder alternative. So I found HKS plugs that do 8s, 9s, whatever. So all sorts. But as I say, they're 90 quid a set, so not ideal. But I found the plugs, and Brisk can go and do one. But again, I'm not bitter. Anyway, all that said, let's crack on, eh? Right, so we're getting the timing disc on here. First engine I built, I took the front pulley, timing belt pulley, where the that takes the alternator pulley, V-belt pulley. I'm using the one off my original 205 because it's nice and light. A V-belt that matches the pulley that was already on the alternator that I bought. The little sold as a motorsport alternator, but it's off a tractor or a Kubota or something. Anyway, that goes on there, and the pulley I had sat just behind that, like back there, which was lovely. But when I welded it on, I realised that this is a sintered material, and as I welded it, loads of oil just kept coming out of the surface, and I couldn't weld it properly. And B, I'm not entirely sure what the long-term reliability would be of welding to a sintered material, so I didn't want to do that again. And I wanted to figure out a way of bolting this on. Then, if you can see, there's no room here for me to actually make a plate that might bolt. I thought first of all I could machine a bit off this, make a plate that thickness, so that's it in the same place, which then extended beyond here and gave me some place to mount some mounting holes. But I don't know if you can see, but there isn't any room for me to get that sort of assembly in. There just isn't room between the thing. I did think about putting that on backwards, but then that would mean this would be sticking a long way further out from the engine, and there are a few things in that area. I think it's quite close to the chassis leg, and there's also a water pipe from the rad that comes round to the engine inlet at the back, so that wouldn't be ideal. I was on the edge of doing that, and then I realised I don't need to. It means a bit of work, of course, but get off there. You can see here there's 3 little slots that are 6mm diameter, so I figured I can drill through into the boss, use these mounting holes, use these as the driving point, so 3 6mm bolts. As I say, very small alternator, no big huge current draws. This isn't very heavy. It probably doesn't need 3 8mm bolts holding it on. That's massive overkill. So 3 6mm bolts through here, that will locate it. That then means I can turn a big chunk off the outside of this, which lightens it, which I'm sure you'll all be very happy to hear. And then I can machine a hole in the middle of this so it sits snugly over the top of whatever diameter I turn this down to, which will locate it. I'll turn an amount off the front here, which means I can make a plate that goes on the front, gives me my mounting holes, then just drill through 3 mounting holes, 3, I don't know, 5mm bolts, something like that. All goes together lovely, and the pulley can go the right way round, sits further back, and everyone's happy. Unfortunately, it means I have to machine this. I have to make a mounting plate for this. I then have to make a spacer ring so that this timing disc doesn't hit the pulley, and then I need to machine the pulley with a hole in the middle, and then obviously some holes around the outside to get some weight out of it, because there's no way I'm fitting a great big lump like that on the front of my engine. Let's get on with it. The timing disc was actually too big diameter for me to hold onto with a chuck, so I had to drill and tap my face plate and drill a couple of holes in the timing disc itself to bolt it on, to hold it to turn it. So that's the lightning holes all drilled in this, and a little hole to just try and even out the balance a bit from where the tooth's missing. Yeah, so assembly. So there's that front pulley bolted on with space, with this plate in there. There's now space to put mounting holes, and there's a little spacer so that the timing disc will clear the pulley, and then the timing disc goes on, which is a little bit fiddly because it's a quite close fit. Come on you go. There we go. That's on. So there we go. That will bolt on there. I'm not going to drill the mounting holes in this until I know exactly where everything's going to sit, because I guarantee if I put the 3 holes in here first, one of them will coincide with one of these holes I had to drill to mount the disc on the faceplate. So I'll do that when I know where everything's sitting. But that bit's done. Now I think we can move on to other bits on the engine.
Just modifying the bolts I'm going to use to bolt on the flywheel, using 12.9 cap heads. The heads are a lot thicker than the standard bolts, although they would just about clear the clutch plate, but I thought I'd take a couple of mil off just to be safe. Because I'm using non-standard bolts, what am I going to do for a torque spec, I hear you cry. 100 Newton meters with Loctite, that's what I'm going to use. Sorry about the appalling angle I filmed this at. You can't really see what I'm doing at all. Use the standard metal shim head gasket, and for head bolts I'm using again 12.9 M10 cap heads with some nice thick washers underneath that I turned down so they just fitted on the pads on the head to give the maximum bearing area. I've got a lot of experience using these bolts over the years, and I found that with lubricant 100 Newton meters is about the maximum you can reliably torque them to. So that's what I'm using, and done in 3 steps. I went 40, 70, 100, 3 steps to torque the head down nice and evenly. With the head bolted down, I get on with fitting all the valve gear, fitting the hydraulic tappets first. They've all been bled down, so they haven't got any oil in them, so there won't be any holding the valves open when the engine first fires up. And because the head is the last bit to get any oil when you fire up, everything up here gets a nice coating of graphogen. Same goes for the cam, lobes and bearing journals all smothered in graphogen to keep everything nicely lubricated during startup. Installing the cam, just getting it in roughly the right place. The number 1's on overlap, and then a nice bit of grease on the surface where the bearing sits to keep everything picking up. No PTFE seals like that front oil seal. Yeah, just a nice, just grease everywhere to make sure, as I say, make sure nothing's going to pick up when it fires up. Getting the cam carrier on, I would generally use well seal for a machined face like this, but there is a groove machined in the surface which is obviously meant to take silicone, so silicone it is. Might appear that I'm pulling these cam carrier bolts down in the wrong order, but it's all to do with which lobe is on lift and putting the minimum amount of stress on the cam and the carrier as you gently pull it down.
Right, so I jumped ahead a little bit, got my cam wheels on, the front pulley is on, torqued up. Couldn't find an exact torque spec, so I did up to 200 Newton meters with Loctite. That bugger isn't going anywhere. You can see I've left off the belt cover. Now, I'm not really a fan of running engines without belt covers because you're just asking for trouble really. But the one that came with the engine was all smashed up, and I'm not buying another one just for this. So what I'm going to do I'll get the belt on, and then I will make just an alley sheet that covers the front, stop things falling in, and would also stop, because the only way it's really dangerous is if it can fall in between gaps. So as long as you cover the inside of the belt, and then basically cover where it runs over the outside of runs over the outside of this one, the outside of that one. So some kind of flange to just stop any crap falling in there will do the job. So I'll make that afterwards. Might make it a checker plate or something funky, but that's not really important. But first of all, I need to get the cam timing done. So I'm hoping I can get away with keeping the standard sprockets. I don't really want to lay out the God knows how many £100 for a pair of verniers. So if I don't have to, I won't. So I will see what the cam timing's like with these on. Cam timing, I know the standard way, and the way I've done loads of times in the past. Put a degree wheel on, find your top dead center, put a mark, and then you turn it round and dial gauge on the buckets and see where your full lift is on inlet and exhaust, and set it like that. But that way is a pain in the arse, frankly, and you don't need to do it. A much simpler way is to use the lift at top dead center method. So you just find your top dead center, make a mark on the thing. You don't need the degree wheel, and then you see how much lift you've got on each cam when you're at top dead center. Much easier to set. And I once had an argument with he was actually my boss at the time. He said, "Oh, if you do a cam timing by cam timing by eye, you can be 30 degrees out, but not if you use the lift at top dead center. You can estimate 1 mil lift pretty well, as long as your ichrometer is not that far out. And so you just put, especially if you've got verniers, I mean, you just put it at top dead center, turn the cams each, you got 1 mil lift, lock the verniers off, and there you go, your timing's done." So the spec for these is 1.5 mil at top dead center. Because turbo motor, they're fast road cams, a bit leery for a turbo, really, I suppose. So I wouldn't mind if we set it a little lower than 1.5. So between 1.5 and 1 would be, to be honest, perfect as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, we'll just see where it is. Get the dial gauge on there, find the top dead center, just make a little mark on here, and then put the belt on and see where we are. So I'll get on with that. So I don't know if you can see what I've done there. Basically, you go, so always come in the same way the engine turns. So you go 5 thou before top dead center, make a mark, go 5 thou after top dead center, make a mark, and slap bang in the middle of that is your top dead center. So there's our TDC mark. Easy as that. Right, now we need to get our thing on the buckets.
So now the dial gauge is set up on the bucket, measuring the valve lift. I'm going to turn the cam so that it's at about 50 thou or 1.25 mil lift, so that when the bottom pulley's on TDC, I should just be able to put the belt on if the timing's going to be anywhere near right. And same thing on the inlet, setting it to about 50 thou lift. This sequence, Sean's a lot of faffing about. Initially, I got the belt on, as you can see here, and the timing was a country mile out. I played around moving the sprocket's teeth forward and backwards, but couldn't get the timing anywhere near. So I thought I would try swapping the cam sprockets, so inlet exhaust and exhaust on the inlet, and see how close I could get it then. And the result was...
Bloody marvellous. Swap the cam, with the cam wheels on correctly, it was a mile out. With the cam wheels on the wrong way round, I've got about 20 thou lift on the exhaust and about 30 thou lift on the inlet. Oh well, vernier as it is then. bollocks. There you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Sorry to end on a bit of a negative. Realising I do need the vernier pulleys. Can you imagine how many engines are running around with hopelessly inaccurate cam timing? You're supposed to just be able to chuck those in on standard marks. It's a mile out. Anyway, get that sorted. Positive. When I was talking about being scared about the price of verniers, I was looking at, Kent cams and spooks and all that lot. We're talking hundreds and hundreds, like 400 quid one place, wasn't it? AliExpress, 50 quid. Ones I actually chose in the end were 60 quid, but blimey, I'm not going to argue with that. Week to 2 weeks delivery. So by the time I've got other bits done on this, should be ready. They should arrive, and then I can get it all together. And as you see, doing the cam timing this way literally takes 10 minutes. So that's nice and easy to sort. So yeah, other bits I'll get on with. I'll make the cover, the front belt cover, and I'll get the timing disc on and like properly mounted, and make the mount for the timings for the pickup sensor. So plenty to be getting on with. Other bits I need to make, probably do before it goes in the car. I will make the water inlet for the block, because obviously I'm not using the plastic one that was original, so I'll just make a little alley boss that will go on there. I'll do that before it goes in the car, but there's a couple of bits that I won't be able to do until it's actually in place. So we got the thermostat housing, bolts on the back end of the head, and also this stupid oil filter housing. It's got screw on cartridge type filter rather than a normal, well, anyway, it's got a weird filter on it like BMWs and stuff. So I won't be using that because this is very much in the way of the turbo manifold, and also this will be probably. So what I'm going to do is get the engine in the car, plan out where everything's going to sit, so mock up the radiator and decide on the intercooler and all that sort of thing, and then I will modify these. This I'm going to just put a couple of unions on to to attach pipe work for the remote filter and oil cooler and thermostat and what have you. And this, I don't know where the radiator is going to be. I don't know where where the turbo manifold is going to run. So I'll wait to modify that until I know all that. Anyway, so that'll wait till it goes back in the car. Those bits. Likewise, the inlet manifold. I've made too many mistakes in the past where you just make the inlet manifold, looks beautiful on the bench, but then you fit it and you have to compromise the inlet piping to get it on where you've mounted the throttle body. So it's all got to be integrated. Okay, so I need the throttle body where the inlet piping can have minimum bends and all that sort of thing. The last thing you want is beautiful manifold, throttle body on the end here, and then your pipe comes up and then has like a 90-degree sharp 90-degree bend as it goes in the throttle body, which is absolutely hopeless. We want to avoid that. So the manifold needs to be designed, point the throttle body in a direction that's easy to get a pipe to with minimum bends, and using the maximum bend radius you can on any bends you do have. Anyway, as I say, that's waiting until it goes back in the car. I also need to, because I'm running coil on, I'm getting rid of the standard coil pack. I'm running single coils. Going to use the R8 red type, I think they're called, are they? Whatever. But I'm going to run single coil on black, so I need to do some mounts for that as well. So yeah, lots of fabrications. I'm rambling, aren't I? I'm just going on. Basically, I hope you enjoyed what you've seen today. I've got plenty to be getting on with over the next couple of weeks, and I've got a nice cheap solution for my verniers. So I think I'll just leave it at that. Like and subscribe as always, please, and I'll just say cheers, good health, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.